Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we do watercolor tutorials, a new one every single week. And this week we are doing a swan on black paper using metallic paint. So that's pretty fun.
It'll be exciting.
If you're a subscriber, you should get this travel tin with the 6 colors and some black paper. If you buy the kit, you'll probably just get one of these little things just by itself. So it's the same paint.
Seems difficult to get that out of there. Was it a struggle?
A little bit.
Okay.
But
I
have weak arms. So maybe that's...
Weak fingers?
We're using around 6 and around 2 Princeton Heritage paintbrush. You can use these with the metallic paints. Just make sure that you rinse them pretty good, because sometimes the metallic-y part, I don't know.
Like the glistening? The
glistening part sometimes gets stuck in it a little bit more. Just rinse them a little extra. Okay, to do this project, we're going to do this in 4 steps. Now, you might have noticed, if you're a subscriber about the kit, that there is no graphite paper or outline in this project, and that's because graphite paper doesn't transfer onto black paper. I tried it. So that's okay though. We're going to freehand this one. You can do it. I'm going to break up the shapes, because it's just, drawing is just basic shapes being broken up. So you can do this. So the very first step is we're going to sketch. The second step, we are going to do the neck and the face. Third step, we are going to do the body. Fourth step, we are going to do the water ripples. Yes, ripples and a reflection if you want to do a reflection. Now, let's start with our oath. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Every time. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple warm-ups. I just wanted you guys to get used to this black paper and the metallic paints. So this black paper was made for us for this subscription, but we do have other black paper on our website for sale. The other thing about this black paper is it's thick, but it's not super cottony, so it can't take a ton of water, which is not a huge deal. And I thought it actually might be helpful to put a paper in here that can't take a lot of water, to teach you how to manipulate it so you can watercolor on things that aren't necessarily watercolor paper.
I always put too much water.
It is a balance. Like, it takes time to figure out how much water to use, but just know that you're going to be utilizing your paper towel a lot. Okay, so the first thing I just want to show you about, I'm just going to go through different water ratios. Does that make sense? So we're just using this white color for the whole thing. If you have the subscription with the whole tin, you are free to use whatever colors you want, but I'm going to use just white. That's all I use for this project. I'm going to get it nice and moist. Okay. What?
I'm looking for Steve, because some people don't like the word moist.
Oh, yeah.
See what kind of words moist is related to.
Okay, so my white paint, I worked it. You have to work it a little bit with a damp brush to get the paint ready to pick up. It just takes a second of mixing. So if I were to dip my paintbrush and not hit it off the side of the cup, it will be dripping. Okay, and then if I pick up paint and I start to paint with this, I'm trying to show you how. Okay, let me just, sorry, I'm just going through my thoughts here. So this is me not hitting off the side of my cup or using my paper towel. So I was going straight from the water cup to the paint without drying off the brush, and then going straight to the paper, which is a lot of water. And if I keep on doing that over and over again, layered, you're gonna see, and you might not be able to see it through the overhead, and it's kind of difficult on the side cam too, but if there's a pool, if you have a pool of water, as in there's a clearly thick layer on top, that's too much water, okay? If I were to dip my paintbrush, hit it off the side of my cup, so then it goes to a point, and then pick up paint, this is what it looks like. And I'm not sure, I wish that there was like a way, I just want you, basically what I want you to do is on your own, I want you to purposely use a lot of water and then also use very little water and just see how that difference is for you and pay attention to those differences. So when and then for me, so now that I'm feeling this paper, and because it's not a 100% cotton paper, I can feel my paper start to warp on this left-hand side where I used a lot of water, then on the right-hand side where I didn't use a lot of water. So if I were to feel underneath, I wonder if you can see it. Can you see this part where it's starting to bulge right here?
If you put it closer to the table, kind of. Yes.
Kind of. So here, and you'll see this at home, this is starting to bulge where I put the heavy wash. But over here, which is right here where I put the not heavy wash, it has not bulged at all. So what I do when I'm painting on any paper, even the Canson paper that we put in our boxes, because sometimes you want to paint on things that aren't watercolor paper. When I notice as I'm painting that the paper is starting to warp, that's in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm using a lot of water, so I need to make sure that before I do more, I'm going to dry off my brush, I'm going to utilize my paper towel, and I'm going to do less wet washes. So as you're doing all of these projects that are in your subscription with the black paper, pay attention to how the paper is reacting to the paint and then adjust from there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that's another reason why if you look at some of our projects, especially for this month on this paper, I kind of kept them more simple, and I also kept them kind of more central and not a lot of layers, because I knew that this paper was not super thick, and so then I adjusted what I was painting to that paper, okay? And but if you do want to do heavy washes with the water and the watercolor paper, Legion makes an amazing black watercolor paper that we sell on our site that you guys can order. That one is a really cottony, heavy paper. So that one you can go crazy with the water washes. But I thought it would be valuable to show you guys what I look for in papers while I'm painting. And then how I adjust depending on what I have. Because I think if you just know how to adjust, then you don't get as frustrated, and you just kind of accept it where it's like, okay, well, I'll just have to adjust to this, and then it's not a huge deal. The next thing that we are going to go over is thin and thick lines. So for thin lines, I'm going to use my round 2. And my round 2, I get wet. I hit it, even my little brush, I hit it off the actual bristles off the side of the cup. I pick up some paint, and I do a vertical hold, light pressure, thin lines.
I just thought of a new name for when your brush has like a stray bristle.
Yeah?
A bristle sprout.
A bristle sprout? I love it. Do I have a bristle sprout?
I don't know, but
I don't.
I was like, oh, bristle sprout. Oh.
That's so great. Okay, so here's my thin lines, and it just takes a little bit of practice. Now this is good to know when we do the neck here. So if you want to practice some of that kind of curve that's going on, you can. And then the nice thing about rounds is if you do a horizontal hold, so I'm holding my brush more straight out instead of up and down, I can get a thicker line, like so. So,
Cobra.
Yeah. So just kind of play with, and you can do thin line to thicker line to thin. Oh, that's an S. Look at that. Just kind of play with the different, and you can do the same thing with the 6. So if I pick up some paint, vertical hold, here's my thin line, this is horizontal hold, thick line, like so. So just play with your brushes, play with how they make moves, make marks, sorry. Make moves.
Your brush has moves you don't even know.
Your brush is just going to start busting out these moves.
Back in the 70s, that brush has a story to tell.
Okay. Next thing we're going to go over is I'm going to go over how to do the shapes before we start drawing. So I'm going to use a white watercolor pencil to sketch this out. You can use a regular pencil to sketch this out. It will show up on the black paper, but I was concerned about you guys not being able to see it through the camera, so that's why I'm using white. But you don't have to use white. Regular pencil would work just fine. Let me actually see. I wonder if they could just see it on the camera if I do it. Can they see that?
Yeah, on the side.
And then here's the
Not bad either.
here's the white.
It's almost the same.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm still going to use the white because why not? But you can use a regular pencil if you want. So, so when you look at this swan, you're basically going to be doing, whoa, that does look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I thought the white would. I thought the white would obviously show up better on the black paper instead of the graphite pencil.
Oh, that's super funny.
Okay, it's fine. So basically, we're going to be working with 4 shapes. So when you look at this swan, I want you to break it down into a oval, which is going to be the body here. Connected to that oval is a curve. Now, you can play with the angles of the curve because that's going to affect the neck shape of your swan. But I, of course, just want to let you know that in nature, there's always something, and swans are constantly moving, right? They're not like totally rigid. It's very much possible that whatever curve that you make, it will exist somewhere. Okay, so I'm just going to start from the body here and do a curve up like that. Okay, after the curve, I have another circle for the head, and then I have a triangle for the beak. Okay, and this is our basic swan shape. What's your face, Keenan?
It just looks like a child's book. Very pleasing.
And then, so after you get this basic swan, now is just kind of where you connect the pieces so it's not like just shapes, okay? So this, for the body, that's the oval. Because it's swimming in water, the bottom of the body is actually cut off. So after our oval, we're going to put in our water line here. We're going to add a little bit of tail feathers at the back. So I just kind of did like some sticky out like this. Like
That's
a ducktail a little bit.
technical term, the sticky out feathers of the bird.
The sticky out feathers.
It's a small known.
Keenan looked it up.
Yeah, it's a little known fact.
And then you do the rest of the oval here. And then kind of look at your curve of the neck. And what's super helpful in drawing, and I literally had a semester of drawing where the only thing the teacher said the entire semester was, this is in relation to this. This is in relation to this. This is in relation to this. And his point was just saying, you have to just be able to check random marks on whatever you're drawing or painting and make sure that the distances match up. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if I were to look at this drawing compared to the sketch that I have going on here, it looks like to me that if I look at this part of the neck here, it's really close to the body. Where this one, this space is much bigger than the drawing that I have here. So once I notice that, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to adjust my curve a little bit more to go back. Okay. And then I'm going to thicken I'm going to connect the neck to the body so it kind of like swoops. And I'm doing this on my practice paper because I don't want to be as sketchy. I mean, I'll be as sketchy on my actual project, but lighter. So I'm like really going for it here to show you guys what I'm trying to do. And then the neck, we're going to connect the neck. Now, one thing I want you guys to be aware of with the neck, which is kind of tricky, is you need to pay attention to the thickness of the neck across the entire thing, because you want that to be even. Now I can see here that my thickness here is thicker than my thickness here, which is not a huge deal because once you notice something, you can adjust it. So then you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna widen that a little bit, widen that a little bit. Okay, now that feels more thick. It's gonna get thicker right here because this is where the neck meets the body. For the head, I'm just gonna follow that kind of round shape. And then the nose, it's a triangle, but it kind of like curves right here. So it's a curve, curve, like so. Does that feel good?
Looks good.
Okay.
I was thinking it was a turkey initially. Now I see the swan.
It just takes, so all drawing is just kind of doing that where you're just breaking, I mean, even like hands, this would be a circle, right? This would be a rectangle. This would be a circle. Like you're just breaking things down into their basic shape, form, and then just connecting them and making slight adjustments to whatever the object is that you're drawing or painting. And so I know that it seems really scary to freehand, and maybe some of you are going to get super frustrated, and that is okay. Whenever you're learning a new skill, it's difficult and it takes practice, and it might not be something that you pick up right away. But for those of you who are interested in drawing more or being able to paint more without having to rely on outlines, this is the process of drawing. Or this is one way that you can draw. So I just wanted to teach you guys that. Now, when we do the ripples, so we have our water line here, they're going to be curved, and then they're just going to kind of mimic that first, like the shape of the curve body, and it will just kind of work its way around. And then it kind of is going to like meet up in the middle here. But you have to make sure that you paint around the back side of the swan too, because this entire thing is going to be water. It's not like the water ends right here. Water keeps on going behind swans. You know what I mean?
Check.
Okay. I think we're ready to paint then.
Do you think swans are like the smug bird of the bird world? Because they just like float on the water. They're long necks.
Because they're so
white and
pretty and
yeah,
beautiful and
how many birds
graceful
want to fight a swan? That's what I want to know.
Now, what bird do you think is most jealous of the swan? If you had to like just picture like this like pack of birds just watching the swans gliding across the water and being super mad.
I mean, I feel like it would be a turkey because they can't fly, they can't swim.
Or like chickens who
They're
have
hunted.
to do this like really awkward neck thing. They're like just sitting
Those
there
chickens
with,
with the big hair.
and they're just walking around like this, watching swans and being like, that son of a gun.
I don't even have a choice. I have to do this.
This is how I have to move. I can't even control it.
I eat rocks.
Okay. That was a really great break. Okay, so I'm going to do my swan in the middle of my paper. Now, I only did one swan. You guys are free to do a whole family of swans. Maybe you do mom and dad and a couple little babies, or it's the same thing. You just make them bigger or smaller depending on what you're painting.
Now, I'm pretty sure baby swans are just ugly.
Yeah, baby swans don't look like this.
They're fuzzy.
But in the art world, we can do whatever we want.
That's true. Little miniature baby swans.
Little miniature baby pretty swans if we want to. Keenan just went like this. Do you know what this reminds me of? Did you ever watch The Swan Princess?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I love the Swan Princess.
And the guy was like, a swan. Okay. Focusing now to our thing. So Again, I'm going to start with my water curve line. So I'm just going to do a curve in the middle. I'm going to do an oval shape for the body. Okay. I'm going to do a curve for the neck. And again, I know it's, some of you are really going to want to take your time and let this be perfect, but sometimes it's easier just to like start and then to adjust than to like feel like you have to get it right the very first time you put a pencil mark down. You don't. That expectation is not here. Keenan.
I've had two thoughts.
Yes.
One, you're using the watercolor pencil because
Yes.
it will blend after you're done, right? Like
Yes.
it'll kind of disappear.
Yes.
But if you use a graphite paper and they can see it themselves, I would say it'd benefit me because it has an eraser.
Oh yeah, let's see how it erases.
I don't know how, yeah.
Okay, this is our scratch paper. I'm just testing this for you guys. Here's a graphite pencil. Erases just fine.
Oh, nice.
Nice. So a watercolor pencil, let's see how that blends out. So it looks like you can blend out the pencil line, but just so you know, if you do this a lot, that layer of water will make your paper start to warp. So it looks like graphite pencil might be better with a good eraser for this project if you're not comfortable sketching. Good point, Keenan.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's my curve. It's a little bit wonky, but that's okay because it's better just to get something on the paper and then to adjust from there. I'm going to do a circle for the head, triangle for the nose. And I know this is looking funky, but it's okay. It takes time and steps. So now that I have my basic shape down, I'm going to revisit the body. And I'm going to do some sticky outy feathers in the tail is the technical name. They also have a wing right here. So I put in like this wing curve. Again, just light sketching. If you want to do more little sticky outies. If you want it to be smooth, I think that would also work. I looked at a lot of different pictures of swans, and these tail feathers sticking out change depending on the swan. So I think some of them were actually totally smooth, but I wanted to show a little bit of the tail texture, so I did that outline like a silhouette. You don't have to do that. Okay, and then now I'm going to work on my neck. So here is the curve. I'm going to bring it back to the body a little bit more. So I'm just kind of slightly adjusting it. I wonder if you can erase watercolor pencil. Let's see. Kind of. Not as great as the graphite, but. Do the other side of the neck. Make sure you pay attention to the thickness of it, letting it get a little bit thicker as it works its way down to the body. Then we have the head shape. So it rounds out a little bit. And then make sure the bill has a curve on the top and then a triangle to the head. And I left a little black line on the bill. And they have a naturally black, where the beak meets the head, there's a naturally black part right there, which is why we left that space. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so I feel pretty good about, I mean, my neck is a little bit more curved than my reference photo, but that's fine. That's not really bothering me. If it's bothering you, you can resketch it if that's what's happening to yours. And then I'm going to kind of do my ripples. Like so. Okay, now we're ready to start painting. I'm going to start with the neck and the face. So I'm going to use my round 2. Make sure you get your white nice and damp so that color comes off easy. Okay, grab my 2.
Bring your paper down just barely. Yeah.
Good? Okay. So I'm going to start painting. Remember to not have a ton of water so your paper doesn't ripple, bend, warp. Those are all the same, right?
Yes.
Now what I'm going to do is on this top part of the neck here, I'm just going to paint solid white. And then as I work my way down, I'm going to do more sketches, sketch mark, like marks that aren't connected, because I want there to be a little bit of shadow on this bottom part of the neck because the head would be casting a shadow on the neck. But we have black paper, so all we have to do, so it's the opposite where the black is showing our shadows, where with watercolor we don't have to paint in our highlights, we leave those white. So we're just flipping it. So I want there to be a little bit of shadow on this neck, so I'm purposely leaving blank spaces so that black paper shows through, and then it is naturally a darker value. Okay, and then I'm just going to make my way up to the head. Again, just kind of filling it in even like so. And then when I do the beak, what?
It just looks super cool already.
Does it? And then when I do the beak, I'm going to follow this kind of triangle shape, leaving a space and then leaving a little mark off the beak.
I think it's safe to say that this will end up looking more vibrant than the reference photo.
Yes. Now, I just want you guys to know that reference photos with metallic paint and black watercolor paper never come out how it's actually going to be on the painting. This is going to be way more bright than the scanned image. And the reason why is because metallic paints changes depending on how the light hits it, right? Where the scanned paper or a picture of a metallic paint will only capture it where the light is hitting it at a certain angle, so it seems flat compared to what is actually happening. So just so you know, I know the reference photos aren't super exciting, but I thought it would be helpful for you guys to have at least something, and just know that this paint is going to really shine on this paper, and it's just not communicated here.
That's what it's going to do on the paper.
Do that sound again. Yes.
It's a little weaker, but yes.
Okay. Okay. Now I feel like I didn't get as good of a curve in here, so I'm really going to accentuate that beak curve a little bit more. There we go. Because it kind of like their, the shape of their beak, I feel like has a strong curve here and curves up. You guys see that? Round it a little bit instead of that, which is what we originally drew, which is fine, but like that is speaking more like a bill because of this curve and this curve than the straight lines. Okay? This is where you start. This is where hopefully you win. Okay. Now, rinse your brush because you don't want, I just am really careful when I rinse my brushes with these metallic paints because I don't want paint sitting in here for a really long time. They should rinse out because they're still watercolors, but I don't know, it just makes me nervous. I like to make sure my brushes are being taken care of. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my 6 and do the body. So I'm going to put in the water line, this soft curve here where that body meets the water. And remember not to go too crazy with your water wash here. Pay attention to how your paper is reacting as you're painting. Sometimes it doesn't show up until it dries, so that's why I like to do like this warm up and test it first, because when I initially put this down, it didn't make the paper bend right away. It didn't bend until the water dried. You know what I mean?
Yes. So
hopefully you did your warm ups so you feel a little bit more comfortable on how much water you should use. I'm going to start out with the flippies, like so. And then when you're painting anything, You want to think about the actual shape of the form and do your brush strokes to mimic that shape, as opposed to like, I'm not going to paint just up and down. If you have to imagine, like, especially with animals, this might be easier. When you pet an animal, think of the motions that your hands go through over the form. That's how you want to paint it. When you go to a swan, let's say you were going to pet a swan's feathers. You wouldn't go to the side of it and just like go up and down, because that would make the feathers go in the opposite direction it's supposed to go. You would follow the shape of the form and the feathers itself. And when you're painting, you want to create that same movement, because that just gives more information to our viewers of what you're trying to create. Where if you like do it opposite of how that form is, then our brain sometimes messes with us and we're like, wait a second, I don't understand the shape of this form, because you have like weird horizontal lines in the middle. And that's not how the feathers go on the bird. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm just going to do long strokes here, following the shape. I'm going to do another layer on this top to make sure it's nice and bright. If it gets like a little bit darker value in the middle or the bottom, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
It looks incredible on the side angle.
Does it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so there's my swan. We just did step 1 and, no, we just did 2 and 3. Ba-bam, we're on our last one. Good job, you guys. Okay, now we're just gonna do our water ripples. So you can do a 6 or a 2, whatever you feel most comfortable making the thin lines. I'm gonna switch to my 2. Pick up some white. And you're just gonna, like this initial water shape, this curved line, you're just going to want to follow that same shape, that same curve as you make your marks around. Now, I'm doing small marks and long marks, kind of switching it up. And then you remember to do the back side too. So we know that it's like the water is also dimensional. It keeps on going behind the swan, so we have to pay attention to that. And then as they get further out, I didn't pick up as much paint. I wanted the water to be not as glistening, because the ripples will be strongest closest to the body, and then the ripples soften as they make their way out. So that's it for our ripples. You can do a couple more if you want. Don't do the whole thing. Well, you can if you want to. You're the artist. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do it around the body. And then if you want to put in a reflection in the water, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to show you how to do it if you want to do it. Basically, you just have to mirror the shape of this swan onto your paper. And then what I did is I just used not as much paint. I didn't pick up as much of the white, because I wanted to make sure that the reflection was not as strong as the real object. But sometimes reflections are as strong as the real object. It depends on how the light is. So if you have a reference photo, that will inform you on how you should do your reflections. But this one, I kind of was just like, no, I want to make it clear that this is the reflection part, and I'm going to slightly distort it. So you're just going to mimic the shape here. So you're just like, think of this as the middle line, and then it just mirrors. So here's the tail end over here. It's going to go to here. Here's the body. The neck kind of comes out this way. This is a really hard way to think, because you're thinking opposite. So if you want to try this on a scratch paper and you're just like, meh, this is not turning out how I want to, you don't have to do this part, because it is really hard to paint backwards. So you can see that this is just like barely a barely there wash. Can they even see that very well?
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit. And you don't have to give a lot of information, just enough. So then you're like, oh, okay, that's the swan reflection. And then also with water too is the water is moving and rippled, so sometimes like the actual shape would kind of like go out a little bit depending on the water waves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And that's it. That's our swan.
Dang.
You guys did it. Good job. I know that this was a lot of information, especially with the drawing, but I know you guys can do it. And I think that just with practice, you guys can really accomplish any project. I can't wait to see what you guys have done. If you have the other colors, you are free to add accents around it, or maybe you do the swans in a different color, or maybe you decide to do the water ripples blue. That would be cool.
Maybe have a prince on the shoreline? I
Yes.
don't know.
Ready to, what did they have to, oh, he had to declare his undying love or something
Yeah.
like that.
I need to watch it again because my girls would love that
Okay,
movie.
my favorite part is when they were like engaged at their like party, and she's like, why do you love me? And he's like, you're beautiful. And she's like, okay, what else? And he goes, what else is there? That is the line in that movie, and she's so, and everybody around who's watching is just like, what?
Oh my gosh.
Prince Derek, come on, Prince Derek,
Oh, dang it, Derek.
get it together, okay?
Can't you just say that she has a great voice? Anything else?
And literally anything else. We have to, I wish that we could just put that clip in. I don't think we can for copyright reasons, but like, just put that, she's like, okay, what else? And it literally is like, what else is there? Well,
Need to rewatch it.
and then somehow he realized she's amazing and her personality, and they got together and they lived happily ever after. It's fine. Spoiler alert. Okay. If you painted this with us, I can't wait to see it. You can tag us on Instagram at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. We have a wonderful Facebook community where you can share the work that you're making, see what other people are doing, pick up tips and tricks, all of that fun stuff. That is called Let's Make Art Watercolor. And just giving you guys a heads up, it's really hard to photograph metallic painting, so don't get frustrated if your photographs of your painting is not true to how it is in real life. Sometimes it looks a little bit better though.
That's always nice.
Yeah, you just have to like angle it right so that glistening is really catching the light, and then take the photo.
Get some sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Bye. Bye.